It's early in the morning. There's a cool breeze. Everything's real quiet. All of a sudden, kaboosh! A big bass blows up on top. In this week's In-Depth, Rick Clun shows us how to fine-tune your topwater game. But first, Stacy King shows us some of his tricks for flipping flooded grass and bushes with a jig. That's this week's Fishing in 4.
When the water gets up in these green bushes like this, there's several ways to catch these fish. Spinner baits, buzz baits, a square bill crankbait around the side, but there's no better way than a flipping stick, a heavy rod, drop that bait right down through the middle of the bush, and those fish can't stand it. They get it when it comes in there on. There's one. Come out of there, you bruiser. Good one. Man. Oh, come out of there. Yeah. Oh, come out of there. That's a big one. Come in here. Oh, man, I tell you, there's nothing more fun than catching a real good fish on a flipping stick. I mean, shallow water bass get mad. They go wild, and what a blast. I tell you what, and it's really not hard. I fish it two ways. You know, I pitch the cover, and I also get up and flip to it. I pitch it when I'm back from the cover. I short pitch, short pitch, short pitch, and then when I get in tight to it, I just take my reel, bring some line out, drop it in there. You always want to keep your rod tip high and keep a little slack in your line. Work the bait with a little slack in your line so that when one hits it, that he won't feel you. And if you feel him move, you just reel down on him and pop him, and you got him. There he is. Come on out there, baby. Come in here. I tell you what, that's not a real big fish, but if I hadn't had the right equipment, I'd have never got him out of there. You catch it, even a 2.5 pounder will get you wrapped around that stuff so bad. So I use the right kind of stuff. I like strong line, a powerful rod, and a fast retrieve reel. The reason I use a fast geared reel when I'm flipping like this is because when you hook those big ones in those bushes, they're hot, man. They come out of there fast. So you need something you can take up that slack with fast. I use a 7.5 foot medium action flipping stick, and that helps me keep up with them. Also get a good hook set with that. And today I'm using 20-pound Test XPS fluorocarbon line. Oh, come out of there. Boy, he come jumping over that log, didn't he? Come out of there. Man, that's what we're looking for right there. The depth's perfect in these bushes right here. You know, when you get out here and you see a lot of bushes in the water, typically you'll want about at least a foot in there, and especially the water's going to have to be pretty dirty if you're going to catch them in a foot of water. But as it gets, bushes get a little deeper, you know, out in the 1.5 to 3 foot zone, it doesn't have to be quite so muddy. You can catch them out of this water. We're seeing, you know, down about 1.5 to 2 foot in this water right here. If it gets much deeper than it is right now, if you get more than about 3 foot in the bushes, the fish move back to a point where you can't get to them with any bait. So I like to see it where it's about at the outer edge, it'll be about 3 foot, maybe 3.5, and then you can catch, a lot of times the fish will be right on the edge or maybe just inside the cover. But if it gets real deep, then they get way back in there. When you're fishing this pattern, it's like fishing anything else. You don't want to just fish a solid line of bushes. You want to have places where the bushes come out in little points and breaks in the bushes where you can get around behind them. And I like to have varied cover, like these are what we call button bushes right here, and they're great cover for bass. But then you see right up there on that point, there's a couple of willows there, nice big willows, and bass love those things. Great shade, great cover for them. And out offshore, you'll see there's 2 or 3 little old patches of brush out there, and even a few laydowns. So you couldn't ask for a better place. There's one. Oh, good one. Come out of there, you bruiser. Come out of there, you bruiser. Man. I tell you what, if you don't enjoy this, there's something wrong with you. Come in here, big boy. That's what we're out here trying to catch. I tell you what, I found out from years of experience, anytime the water comes up real high, real fast, like it's done here in the last couple of days, the bass move in immediately, and you can go out with a long rod and have some fun catching big bass.
Up next, if you ask Rick Clun what his favorite technique is, he's probably going to tell you anything that produces a visible strike. He's talking topwater, and that's this week's In-Depth.
You know, I love to fish topwater year round, but there is two favorite times to fish. My number one favorite time is actually what most people refer to as the dog days of summer. It's when the fish have been deep for most of the summer, but in a lot of lakes you lost your oxygen deep, the thermocline has gotten bad, and so the fish are actually moved up and are suspended. The other time is mid-spawn to early summer fishing, which is basically post-spawn.
We've got a lake here that's still on the rise, even though it's the late spring, early summer. And the thing you got to remember is that'll hold those fish up that have been shallow during the spawn anyway. And the reason it holds them up is because of this, because that flooded vegetation will attract a lot of little sun perch, a lot of brim, and a lot of shad, and that will keep the fish up. Another good reason to fish topwater. What we're starting on here this morning, and one of the things I'm going to try to determine here this morning, is what type of banks these fish are using. Are they using still on these sloping banks that has a few of these flooded buckbrush on it? As you can see, this bank has a gentle slope to it. We're sitting about 11 to 12 foot out here, off the bank. We started on the point, and we're going to work down to that next point. So what I'm trying to determine is if the depth of the bank is going to be important this morning. So as we progress, we'll work some banks that'll be a little bit more vertical than this. These fish will move 20 to 30 foot to this bait. So I can get down to this point, I can work out on this point, and even though I'm over 20, 30 foot of water, this, unlike a lot of techniques, can still be very effective. Because 20 to 30 foot, it's only 3 times higher than a basketball goat. A bass can cover that distance in about a second and a half, probably. It doesn't take him anything if he wants to come to a bait that far. A lot of people think 30 foot, man, that's a long ways. Fish ain't gonna move that far. In clear water, that's an easy move for a fish if you're around aggressive fish. Everybody says, what's your favorite lure? Any bait that creates a visible strike is my favorite lure. Surely more often than not that's a topwater, but there are other lures like waking a spinner bait that will do that. My favorite bait over the years has become the little bitty chugger. The one I use now is a Japanese bait called the Rico. And actually when I'm fishing it, it usually takes me probably about 30 minutes to really get into the rhythm of fishing it right. See, I can fish it the old traditional way. That's the old traditional way. Boom, let it sit, boom. And that'll work at times. That will work. I'm not saying that's not a good technique, but what separates this bait again is usually when you get to walking, stop, and it's actually a spitting sound. I don't want to hear it bloop very many times. I want to hear it spitting. There's little subtle things about this bait that have to be right for it to work perfectly the way I like to work it. Not only does it have to have this very little of a bottom bill to make it do that spitting sound. I like heavier pound test line with it, preferably the line that floats a little more than the others, like monofilament. I tend to tie it with it and leave a big tag on it. And when a lot of guys don't like a big tag because they think it affects the way a bait works, and it does sometimes. And I push the knot to the very bottom of the bait, so it comes off like that. This improves the ability to create that spitting sound that I desire. I've always done that with the originals and even to this day. So occasionally I have to look at it when I'm fishing, or especially after you catch a fish, make sure you haven't pulled that back straight like that. So what I'll do is I'll bring it back down to the bottom, and that actually encourages it to spit and walk more than doing the chugger. We're approaching a point here now, and really I think that's going to be the key feature to the day. Most time after the post-spawn, the fish will normally start moving back out toward the secondary and the main points. How deep are they going to be is going to be the next question. And it's another good thing about topwater, especially in a clear lake like this, is that right now we're fishing from the bank, which is shallow, out to the boat, which is around 11 foot. What I'm going to do on this point with this topwater is I'm going to actually fan cast from shallow all the way out to deep off the point. Because these fish normally this time of year could be shallow, or they could be out there suspended over 25, 30 foot of water waiting for schools of shad to come by. That one only moved it about twice when he got it, and that's a smallmouth. That's the other thing I like about the topwater is that it really does do a good job of on all three species of bass, and stripers and white bass and everything else. The other real key though, and even though I'm taking my time because I don't want to hurt him, but it's normally is to get back out pretty quick, because these fish normally are running in wolf packs right now. So where there was one, there's usually more somewhere around it. The surprising thing about this technique is that growing up, especially topwater fishing, I always heard the best time was early and late, early in the morning, late in the afternoon. And then in a lot of cases, that's still true. But I don't know why, but with this particular little bait and this technique, I have found that sometimes the best days are the brightest days and the hottest days and dead in the middle of the day. Since this lake is coming up, and I've already noticed a lot of brim and minnows using that shoreline cover that's being flooded, I'm going to go ahead and work the back of the pocket here to see if it's holding any largemouth still. A lot of times they will keep them longer if the lake is high than if it was falling like you would normally expect in early summer. I'm really going to work a little bit of everything here this morning until I really get a good feel for what I think the more of the fish are doing.
Everyone loves to throw topwater, but to be successful at it, you got to know what bait to use and what color. One of my favorite things to do is add a feather treble to the back of my bait. Let's go back to Rick and see what else he can teach us.
We're changing water here a little bit. We're leaving the flatter points. I'm moving over here to a bluff, what we call a bluff end. Deeper water near the bank. Also, this bank's still going to be holding some shade. The spook, I normally throw fairly heavy line. I'm usually throwing 17-pound to 20-pound monofilament. The speed I work it at and the amount of line that's actually in the water, I really don't think the light line gives you any advantage. And if a big fish comes out of that tree and gets that bait on the other side of it, I got the heavy line to get him out of there. And definitely everybody that fishes spooks know that happens. It's a big fish bait. It generates quite a few big bites, and the closer you can get to the cover, sometimes the more bites you get. I'm a heavy line fisherman. I fish the heaviest line I can get away with. There he is. See, he come right out of that tree, and I basically did not allow him to go down. He's not a large fish, but still it could have been. So that's the whole reason to use the heavier line. We're getting about 11 o'clock right now, and the wind's been steadily picking up since about 9 o'clock. We've gone to the bigger baits to get a little more distance, and also we got a little heavier ripple on the water. We seem to get a little more consistent action when we get on these deeper bluff banks, especially if they got a little bit of wood on them, old standing cedar trees or hardwood. This is a similar bank to the earlier bank that we caught some fish off from. Little squirt. There's one of those chunkers. Come here, little fella. These fish really haven't progressed as much out of these spawning pockets as you might think. And so I really just started looking for the things that post-spawn fish hold on once they finish spawning in these pockets if they haven't moved all the way out to the main channel. They're either going to be on those points that lead out of these spawning pockets, or they're going to be on some type of major complex cover. And the docks is the only thing that's in here.
He's got a bruise, doesn't he? Got a little leftover bruise from the spawn. He's got all tangled up now. Kind of watch the bait to get your proper rhythm down on when you snap again, because you want it to turn before you snap again. If you want a real wide wobble, then you do it slower. Snap, feed line back, snap, feed line back. And you see it's making real wide turns. Didn't I see that one under it? Oh my goodness. Man, I watched him come up there and get a hold of that. I didn't think he'd hit it because I thought we were too close to him. But he did. Come here, I want to be gentle because he's got one in the throat and that's not a good spot. So I'm going to wait until he tires down. Okay, one more. That should be all you have. You shouldn't have any more left. All right, that was easy enough. That demonstrated the wide wobble, and sometimes that's what you want, that real deliberate wobble from side to side and kind of slow. And that fish came up on it once, came up on it twice, and got it. Now the other one I use quite often in clear water, and it's really a lot snappier. You see, it's not quite as wide, it's a lot tighter and a lot faster. I might pause it like at the edge of that dock there and keep coming with it. But that's not that real wide wobble like we had a minute ago like that. If I had to start tomorrow, let's say, and fish a tournament, knowing what I know right now, I would do something different in the morning. I'd go on this topwater bite, starting about 11 to 2, and then I'd fish something else, maybe from 2 on. Now, if the bite lasted longer, let's say it was hitting real good at 2, then I might fish a little bit longer, but that's generally the way you use a topwater bite. It's kind of a complementary technique to other techniques. All of us have experienced days when we're fishing our favorite area and we're using our favorite lure and nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden we make one tiny lure change and the whole area just comes alive. When I won the 1984 Bassmaster Classic World Championship at Pine Bluff, Arkansas, I had fished this one area, this one little 50-yard ledge for 2 straight days, and it produced 2 24-pound bags of fish for me. And I had a huge lead over the rest of the contestants. But that second day of the event, the area only produced 7 bites for me. And so I, like most anglers, I thought I was depleting the resource. And I really was trying to plan for the next day. I've been using a 6/8 bomber, which is a wide wobble bait. It's got rattles in it. And I said, well, I'm going to change to a bait that's quieter and maybe a little tighter wobble. And so I went to number 7 Shad Rap and immediately turned around and caught 28 pounds. I caught the biggest string of my trip in the whole tournament. And it was like that one minor change turned this water back into virgin water. What really I'm going to cover here is the 3 basic lure types and things for you just to kind of become more aware of. First, is it silent? Does it have rattles? Because that is an auditory capability that the lateral line has. So, you know, all lures like crankbaits tend to have some sound just due to the split rings and the hooks. Be aware that it's a different sound than obviously a real blatant sound that we have with all these rattles nowadays that we have in the lures, which is a very intrusive sound underwater. Are the sides round, smooth, or do they have, like the Orion here, do they have cuts and grooves in them? Because this is going to create a different image. Be aware of that. The way I kind of try to use this in the context of on the water is I really try to understand what, on this particular lake, if I go to a lake, let's say in a different part of the country, what do the locals throw at the fish the most? And contrary to what you'd think, it's not that I want to duplicate that. Actually, I probably in some cases, in many cases, I'm actually trying to stay away from those images that the fish see all the time and try to give them something a little different. So have that kind of awareness. You know, what are the fish getting beat to death with, and then try to give them something a little different, just like I did in 1984 on that one little stretch of water when I won the championship. So these are really the kind of things you need to become more aware of.